When you're building a custom truck like this with a custom engine, custom front end, and really nothing is original on the car, you're gonna have to make your own brake lines. So in this episode, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to make your own custom brake lines and show you what it looks like on the truck itself, so you can see how easy it is to do it yourself. I'll put links in the description to both the bending tool and the flare kit that we got. Obviously, custom truck, custom work, custom brake lines. We're gonna have to make our own. So I measured off what I need as far as to make it run from the master cylinder to the back rear brakes. We're gonna cut it off. And this tool has a kit here that actually allows you to cut the line and do it properly instead of sawing it off, because it's very, very difficult if you're gonna do that. You wanna use something like this. This comes in the kit, but this looks like a regular old like copper pipe cutter that you'd get from Home Depot, but it's small to be able to do what we're doing. So every rotation, I turn this a little bit more. There, off. So now we're gonna take this to the vise, and I'll show you what to do next. So now that we have it on the vise, this is our flaring tool, and it just kind of holds the line like that. And what we want to do is we want to file off the top of this in order to get it so the piece that comes in the kit, like the bubble tool, fits inside. And obviously it doesn't fit in there yet, so I got to grind it down some more. And keep it rolling. All right, a little bit more. Does it fit in there? It does. I'm going to grind it down just a hair more. Take a razor blade, stick it in the top just to kind of gouge out anything else that's on the top there. We don't want it to get stuck when we flare it. Now we'll check it. It fits in there nice. And then I'm just going to take this out before we actually finally put it in. And then just kind of grind the end of it here so it's nice and flush. We want to just have the best surface for it. Then when we put it back in the vise, come closer, I'll show you what I'm talking about. When we put it back in the vise, we want it to be the same height as that on this. So then we have to just kind of line it up with our eyeballs to see where it is. That looks like it's good there. Okay, I'll show you here. So we want it to be the same height as the fitting adapter here. Then I'm going to tighten this down all the way, and then this goes in it, and we're going to push it down with our clamping tool, and that will create like a bubble on it. So we'll show you that next. Here is the tool that goes on this. You want to make sure you have these clamped down pretty hard so the bottom of the line doesn't fall out when you're doing it. Then you tighten this down, and this starts the flaring process. I know what you guys are thinking, I don't have my fitting on it, and I don't, but the other end is open. So once I do this, I'll put both fittings on, and then I'll clamp the other side down. So once that's down there like that, we can back this out, right? Single flare there, and then you take this piece off. You might need a pair of pliers or something just to get it out. You take that off, and then you hit it again with the top piece like this just to finish out your flare. Hit it with the top piece just to finish out our flare here. I'm not going to go in all the way, just to kind of get it so it has a nice flare to the bottom of it, like that. Now we can disconnect this. This comes out. And then when we put our actual flare on, or the fitting on, it fits just like that. And that's a proper flare that we will use for the brake line. Now I'm gonna put the other one on so I don't forget, because if you do the flare without putting that on, you gotta start all over again. So we'll repeat the process the same on this side, and then we should have a perfectly good line. We can bend and maneuver where we want with the brake line bender on the back. All right, so I'm not gonna bore everybody with, you know, how we figured out what we did and, you know, making all the fittings. I showed you guys me making one, and that's good enough, but I'll show you how we ran it. So this is like our proportioning valve, and this splits the brake pressure between the driver or the front side and the back. So this goes to the back, and what they asked for is a reducing valve. So this is a 10-pound reducing valve. This has to go to the back brake. So I have a fitting made here, 90 degrees, and then that goes up into the back fitting there. And I'm gonna tuck this in nice and tight, but it's definitely got enough reach to get there. That's what we gotta do for that. The front is a lot more tricky. So I blocked the front one off here. I have a 2-pound reducing valve here. Went under here and up, and then I have a T here. Then from here, this one's gonna go to the driver's side disc brake. However, I'm out of these fittings, so I'm gonna need to get more. And then I split this one off, and I have it running across the cross member. Now, I know what you guys are saying. Hey, well, if you gotta take the transmission out, you're gonna take the brakes off. You're right, I do. Mainly because I also have to take the brake booster out just to drop the transmission, because the cross member won't come out. So if the transmission's gotta come out, all this has to come out anyway. So then we're going up here. I decided to put one together here because it'd be really hard to get it all of this through in one shot, so I split it off there. So this one comes in here, and you can see I have it running up through that hole that's there. And then this is all gonna get tucked in when we're done with it, because we have our starter solenoid there. And then this runs up and over into our not hard line or rubber line, into our soft line for the disc brakes. Now this has disc brakes, Crown Vic front end suspension, full coilover, so it should run and drive great. It should ride really well. And this brake booster is gonna work perfectly. I just have to hook a vacuum line up to this in order for the booster to work, but that is how it's plumbed. I did it off camera because bending the brake lines with this brake line bender was really simple and straightforward. You can do anything from 0 to 90 degrees, 180 degrees if you really need to bend it. This tool worked great. It was really cheap. It was on Amazon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. This made bending the brake lines a really, really easy part of the job. And honestly, making the fittings isn't hard at all either. It's just time consuming, and a couple of those extra steps really could save you in the long run by having to take everything apart while the lines are full of fluid because they didn't hold. Spend a little extra time and flare them right the first time. And they sell an entire kit for this too. We're not quite done with it yet, tightening it down, but that's what it looks like now. If you guys want to see any more stuff that we did like underneath here, like when we did our FiTech fuel system, the drive shaft, everything else, you guys could see all that stuff on our YouTube channel. We're also in the process of doing this e-stop electronic emergency brake. We haven't, the cables run, we haven't run the wires yet inside the cab. We're gonna do that in a separate video. So make sure you guys stay tuned to all this stuff.